Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies. The following video is about Noah's Ark and the Great Flood. Taken from the All-Seeing Eye, Volume 3, Number 7, January 5th, 1927. Noah and His Wonderful Ark, Symbolism of the Great Flood, by Manly P. Hall. Every passage in the Bible has many interpretations, for the book was written as a key to all things and not merely as the explanation of a single mystery. Therefore, when we study that part of it which takes up the story of Noah's Ark, we are dealing with a 12-fold allegory. Many of its mysteries are as yet unknown to even the most advanced students, and it can never be understood in its fullness until man's mind reaches cosmic proportions. The Bible is a sealed book, and it will remain sealed until man himself, through the purification of his bodies and the balancing of his mind, has given the sword of his spirit the power to cut the Gordian knot, which the lay brother must spend years and perhaps even lives in trying to unite. True occult work is not secret. No one is forbidden to study and master the laws of nature. But until we have prepared ourselves by service and altruism, we are unable to comprehend the grandeur, purity, and justice of the universal plan. The reason the Bible is a sealed book is because the student can see nothing in the world without or in these sacred books unless he has evolved eyes within himself with which to see and appreciate. Ingersoll was perfectly correct when he said, "An honest God is the noblest work of man." For while God is unchanged by our conceptions of him, still to us he is limited by our own ideals, and the mysteries in his sacred books are veiled from the eyes of him who looks only with the physical sense. Now let us turn to the book of Genesis, which contains the story of the ark and the flood, and read the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th chapters. For if the student will read these before he goes on with this article, it will make some of the points clearer. First, let us consider the flood. In every religion of the world, we find reference to this, and all agree approximately as to the time when it occurred. The student of comparative religions will, of course, remember that great flood that sank the last of the continent of Atlantis about 9,000 years BC. All earlier floods covered only a part of the earth, and the researcher is forced to look elsewhere for the great flood or oblivion that is spoken of in the Bible. We find that the ancient word used for the flood does not mean water necessarily, but rather oblivion. One of the great laws of nature is that of periodicity. In other words, the law of action and repose. We know that it is necessary for man to go to sleep every night to make up for his great expenditure of energy during the daytime. We know that every giving forth must be balanced by a taking in. It is the same with the universe as it is with man. There comes a time when the world must rest after each great day of manifestation. This is called the night of the gods. At this time, all of the planets and suns return into the universal all. We can see this process taking place in the great nebula in the sky. It is then that God, the Creator, ceases to manifest for a certain length of time before again sending out globes on which the development of man may proceed. It is then that Noah, representing the God of our solar system, and his three sons, who represent the threefold Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, float over oblivion, carrying with them the germs of all created things, which have been drawn back into the infinite. When the worlds are sent out again, these beings are drawn to the globes to whose rate of vibration they are attuned. The process is the same as that used by the ego which contains within it the seed, atoms, of the lower body. The ego and the spiritual substance with which it is clothed constitute the ark. The three sons of Noah are the seed atoms of the lower bodies, and their wives are the negative poles of these atoms. Noah is the mind. The ark with the seed atoms floats in mind stuff before the descent of the atoms again into matter through rebirth. In Masonic stories, there is mentioned a cable tow that connects the ark with the earth. This the student knows to be the silver cord, which connects the spirit and the body. We know that spirit cannot die. The animals which are driven into the ark represent the life of all the kingdoms that is withdrawn into God and remains there until planes of consciousness are evolved from its remanifestation. Then again, the story of the ark is the story of the ego building the bodies which, when completed, will give him consciousness on all planes of nature. The three sons of Noah are the three lower bodies. In order for man to function on any plane of nature, he must have a body attuned to that plane. The loss of consciousness means that the vehicle which attunes the spirit to that plane has been withdrawn. When the three lower bodies have been built, the ego always has a vehicle of expression and never loses consciousness on any plane of nature. The animals in the ark thus represent the various powers in man that are carried with him from life to life in the living ark of his own being. The one window in the ark represents the spiritual eye through which the higher man watches the bodies below him. When the world, which are the bodies, again comes into being, the ark comes to rest on the top of Mount Ararat. This is the head of man, or the high place in the body. There in the frontal sinus, the ego takes its place, and the forces coming down from it again people the body. When the dove, the messenger, brings the sprig of acacia back to the higher man, then he knows that the lower bodies have come to life again, and that it will be possible to come down from the ark and labor with them. It shows that the higher ideals and the transmuted animal forces can again go to all parts of the earth and proceed with their work. The first thing that Noah did when he left the ark was to build an altar unto the Lord, and upon this altar he made sacrifices to God. Each of us who would follow in his footsteps must do the same. The altar that he built to God was his own purified body, and before it he and all of his children bowed. The fire upon the altar was the spirit fire within himself, which he had kindled by his own actions and thoughts. The sacrifice that he made upon that altar was that of the lower passions and emotions of his life. Then the rainbow appeared in the sky, and the promise was made by the Almighty to Noah that as long as that bow remained, there would never be another flood. This is a wonderful allegory, especially when we remember that the rainbow is made of three primary colors: the blue of the spirit, the yellow of the mind, and the red of the body. These are the three colors of the Trinity in man: the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. As long as these three principles are balanced in man, forming in their combination all the other colors, there will never be another oblivion. But if ever one of these colors disappears, darkness falls over the ego in whose temple that mistake is made. The threefold path that leads to God is one. If you love with all your being and allow your mind or body to go unused, you are taking your rainbow from the sky. If you know all things and have not love, you have not gained nothing. If you have both knowledge and love, and yet the action of hands and body in daily work is neglected, there is nothing gained. In this rainbow, we see the threefold silver cord, and when it is broken, the body is dead. Death is the result of crystallization, when the body becomes too heavy to be carried by the spirit. Then it is discarded and another is taken. It is the same with the thoughts and emotions. They must be high and ethereal, yet ever practical. If they are not, the rainbow is broken, and the oblivion of discord and uncertainty surrounds the ego and makes the path of life much harder than it would be otherwise. Analogy is the key that unlocks many secrets. In worlds and individuals, nature works in the same way. As it is with the smallest, so it is with the greatest. If we want to be the ones to rise above the flood of oblivion and in the ark of our own souls float over chaos, it will be necessary for us to build this ark, as nature builds the great cosmic ark, namely by the lifting of consciousness and the perfecting of ever higher vehicles of expression. This is done by daily living the life of service, thoughtfulness, and love, each in an equal measure and always with the one ideal of keeping alight the altar fire of God. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating a little towards the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you very much.